Both. Or either.
Or either.
All of the forms.
All the aboves.
All the above. Yeah.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 1 of Lab Report Live, and we've got Cam, Critta and myself here today. We're going to talk about what is acceptable form for 1RM testing. So where do we cut it off for technical breakdown, or what is acceptable technical breakdown, or when do we determine what is a true 1RM? So we're going to talk from a couple of different point of views. So I'm going to talk from an Olympic lifting point of view, Critta's going to talk from a powerlifting point of view, Cam's going to talk about team sports and the role of 1RM testing there, what is acceptable 1RM form. So I might start with you, Critta. What's your opinion on this?
My opinion's pretty straight down the line when it comes to acceptable form. Obviously, you don't really want to see major biomechanical deficiencies or discrepancies under a certain load, because if that load's at like 90% or 95% or 100% for that matter, and their form's breaking down, or they're rounding their shoulders, or their knees are coming in, or whatever's happening, that's going to lead to a massive risk of injury.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you can't do that sport, or you can't perform that lift, how are you going to get better at it? Because you're injured.
But what if you've got a client, a PT client, and they've paid you to train for 8 weeks, and you've said that they're going to get results, they're going to lift heavier? Is it okay for you to then just go, form goes out the window, I just want you to get the bar from A to B?
Well, no, because when you test a subject, when you test a client at the start, you test them with good form.
Yeah.
You test what their true 1RM is, well, they're close to true 1RM form, a good form.
Yeah.
The way that you want to see it, the way that you train it.
Yeah.
So then that 8 weeks that you train that same form, theoretically it should get stronger.
So regardless if they're a powerlifter or just a PT client or a general gym goer?
Yes.
No difference?
Say that again.
No difference between any of them. They still must do it with good form.
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
It's like a no-brainer. That's why I was confused why you asked.
Yeah. Just to make sure it was clear. It was just too simple.
What are you talking about?
Well, okay, what about an Olympic weightlifting point of view?
Yeah, so Olympic weightlifting is it's a little bit different. So when you go for an Olympic lift, you're going to see, well, if you go to Olympic lifting competition, you're going to see them miss quite frequently. So 50% of the lifts are roughly going to be dropped on the ground, unsuccessful attempts. Does that mean that it's going to injure them? Not necessarily. It comes down to the training of Olympic weightlifting. So when it comes to squats, pulls, presses, I want those executed with perfect form. I want those executed, I don't really want any deviation from form, and I want them as strong as possible in there. So when it comes time to the competition and they're going for a 1RM snatch, it's a small percentage of their 1RM back squat. So if there is technical breakdown, if it looks ugly, and if they have to fight it up, but it wins them the competition, that's okay, because it's only a small percentage of their 1RM, or a smaller percentage of their 1RM. So the chance of injury is much lower. In terms of training 1RMs, I do want those lifts to be as close to perfection as possible. So from my point of view, in competition, you can have technical breakdown if it's going to win you the competition, but you should be strong enough to support that bad position.
Yeah. So that's you've got a strength reserve. So if
strength reserve is the key.
So if your clean or clean and jerk, we'll call it clean for now, is 100 kilos, and you can only front squat 105. Do you want form breakdown in the competition?
In the competition, look, not excessive breakdown.
Yeah.
But chances are, if your squat is 105 and your clean is 100, you're probably not going to clean it. You're going to dump it. You're going to drop it.
Yeah. Okay. So strength reserve means your clean's 100 and you've got a front squat of 150.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's going to come down to athlete ability too.
Yeah.
So experience, ability, all that kind of foundation. I know we've spoken before that I know a lot of powerlifters, or a lot of lifters, just generally speaking, that are so freaking strong.
Yeah.
But their form isn't, I'm not going to say it's shit, it's just not the best.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they've trained that form for so long that it's so hard to get out of that habit and then retrain certain muscle groups to do something that might be totally opposite.
Would you say they've been lucky to not get injured doing that?
Yeah, I think they probably learnt their lessons.
Yeah.
But I also, it's probably a bit of luck too that they haven't done more serious damage. But that's maybe because they have, some of them have a massive foundation of muscle which actually protects, your spine and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that stuff doesn't happen.
So if you've got a new person coming to you, are you throwing gear on them straight away? Are you putting a weight belt? Are you putting knee sleeves? Are you putting knee wraps? Wrist wraps and elbows?
No.
No.
I try, when I test someone, I test them as raw as possible.
Yeah.
Usually squat them with no shoes, unless it's in like a Converse chuck or a Reebok CrossFit powerlifting shoe thing that I wear, or Ollie shoes. So unless it's a flat, sort of stable, hard sole or feet on the ground, proprioception, I think any other footwear is obviously not acceptable.
No Nike Flyknits.
No, no runners, no Air Maxes, none of that. No Timberlands.
Damn. Bullshit, eh?
So I start with them like that. This is just an example, obviously.
Yeah.
Because if you have a belt on a novice, right, who's someone who's never lifted before, you can't. It blocks a little bit of form breakdown. It blocks a little bit of, or gives you a false. Is it false positive or false negative?
False negative.
False negative.
Okay. Correct us, below.
A false negative in regards to their technique. So there's no way I would be putting gear on, especially knee wraps. Like knee wraps is competition specific only.
Yeah.
You don't need knee wraps to. I wouldn't say you don't need them to get strong, because you do.
Yeah.
But it's a sport specific thing.
It's kind of a false strength for that person if they're not competing. If they're not competing, it's a false strength, isn't it? Because it's not their true strength, what they can actually squat.
Yep, exactly. But in saying that, I've done heaps of training cycles where I've gone, I'm just going to get strong raw. I'm just going to wear knee sleeves and just going to get strong squatting raw. Then I've gone into knee wraps and it's been like 10 kilos more than my raw.
Yeah.
Whereas when I train in my knee wraps for competition and when I'm peaking for competition, I will do all my warm-up sets, knee sleeves, blah blah blah, do my working sets with knee wraps, and then back it off again. And my squat with knee wraps is like probably 50 or 60 kilos difference between my raw. But when I trained raw and then went to knee wraps, it didn't work because I wasn't training in knee wraps. It was a totally, your technique changes completely when you're in knee wraps.
So you, in your first however many years of training, you didn't even know what a knee wrap was, really, did you?
Not really, no.
No, so you didn't use them?
No.
There you go. don't need them.
No. So I would, always lift as raw as possible at the start, in the beginning, and then slowly add equipment at certain stages or certain percentages of the lift to assist, or to prevent injury or any of that stuff. And that's the way, and stability. Like, if you're going to bench, right, and let's just say your 1RM is 100, which probably is.
That's generous.
Let's say
it's more.
Let's say it's 100, and that's like, let's say 95%. You're going to wear wrist wraps for it.
Yeah.
Even though you're a novice, you're probably still going to wear wrist wraps because it's going to help you with stability. And it's going to help you with performance, essentially. Whether it's placebo or not, and confidence. So at the end of the day, I think you definitely need equipment at some stage. But you don't just chuck on a belt, wrist wraps, knee sleeves, blah blah blah. Just to make them look stronger. So get them strong, see where they're breaking down, work on the weaknesses. And there's always a way to work on weaknesses, as we all know. Accessory exercises, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Well, what about your point of view with in terms of team-based sports? How relevant and how much of a need is there to work up to 1 RMs, and what's acceptable form breakdown, if there is?
I think, look, I love strength and I love seeing people lift heavy and it's all good fun. I love the traditional lifts, squat, bench, deadlift, clean and jerk, snatch, all that sort of stuff. Is that super relevant for, say, Aussie rules players, rugby, rowing, all this sort of stuff? Probably not. you know, if their deadlift from the floor, their max effort deadlift from the floor goes up, are they going to be a better football player? Very, very small correlation, if any. Okay, so for them to be good at their sport, they need to be good at their sport. Okay, so if you can't kick a footy,
Funny though.
and you're a footy player, like if you can't squat and you're a powerlifter, you're pretty fucked. Like, let's be honest. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So for me as a strength coach with those sort of team sport athletes, there's no point in me worrying about, you know, always deadlifting from the floor and always, you know, doing a traditional back squat or low bar back squat, whatever it is. I'm going to train these guys and I'm going to max them out in different positions most likely. So the other night we rack pulled from the knee, you know, which takes out a lot of potential risk on the lower back for these footy players, you know, and they can lift a lot heavier weight. Now that's not cheating, that's just lifting heavy relevant to what their sport is, okay? They're not deadlifting out on the footy field. So in terms of technical breakdown then for them, that's exactly the same as what Critta said for powerlifting. As soon as the form starts to go out the window, even if it's on a partial range movement or whatever it is, that's when I'm calling it. That's when I'm telling them drop the bar or I'm not going up in weight. I'm looking for just that point where you tip over into, your body goes into finding the strongest position because it's not comfortable with that weight. That's what I'm looking for, that point where your hips shift too far one way or whatever it is. I'm not trying to make you the world's best powerlifter as a team sport athlete. I'm trying to make you an athlete that can produce more force into the ground so you can run faster, jump higher, change your direction. But I'm also trying to bulletproof you by training you in all these different positions, because as you guys know, you know, with the fighting background, soccer background, Aussie rules, we end up in weird positions. You know, we end up in awkward positions, someone's tackling you.
Yeah, it happened last time.
I wonder how much you got of that.
I think it only just came
Only
on.
just came up.
So yeah, so as I was saying, camera malfunction. As I was saying, you get in weird positions. So I'm training sports athletes for these sort of weird positions, but I'm still wanting perfect form. Okay, the deadlift form that Critta uses for his powerlifters is going to be exactly the same as I use for my athletes when they're doing a deadlift. Okay, it's exactly the same. I'm trying to generate strength through biomechanically sound positions and bulletproof the athlete by making them strong in different areas. That's what I would do.
Yeah, you weigh up risk versus reward.
Exactly. What's the point, man? Like, if I've got a football player and I add an extra 15 kilos to his deadlift and he pulls it like rubbish and bends in half, A, he's probably not going to be able to go to footy training.
What does that achieve?
Yeah,
What does that achieve
it's
anyway?
not going to make him kick any further.
So, like, remember, it's only, like, as we spoke about the nutrition with weight, it's only a number. Like, your max squat or your PB squat that you might hit is just a number. If you're feeling shit on the day and your form's horrible and you're tight in your lower back or your glute or something, just quit it or stop or back it off and just count it as a normal training session and do some volume after that at 50% load or whatever it might be. Why risk getting an injury for a max lift that you're not even ready for? And it comes down to like the fundamental lifting sort of protocol. You need to build a strong foundation and a good base first before you start maxing reps.
And the skill acquisition of it, like that you guys touched on. If you're not doing every rep, whether it's your warm up, you know, your volume and that really heavy stuff, if you're not trying to do it perfectly and as good as it can possibly be, that's one rep you've ingrained in a shit position. If you're in a shit position, you're a shit athlete. Too much?
No,
That's
I agree.
Yeah. So you want to be training in the best position possible, okay? So work the positions, accept the minor breakdown, but know what to do with it. Know what to do with the assistance exercises and where to apply it. That's my opinion.
So find your breakdown, see what's happening. If it's knees are caving in, you know, it could be tight adductors, weak glutes, whatever it is. Work on exercises that will fix that issue so that your overall squat is going to be 10 times better than what it was 8 weeks ago. And every rep, you know, regardless of whether it's 60 kilos or 300 kilos, you pull or squat or bench 60 kilos as if you were benching, squatting, pulling 300 kilos. It should be the same every single time. Speed, movement, energy, like anything you set up, anything you put into a lift, whatever it might be, has to be the same for every single weight. You don't just go up to 60 kilos and just pull it like, you know, nice and relaxed. You pull it like you're pulling 200 kilos. because that ingrains that motor pattern into your body, rep after rep, set after set. And that's what gets you used to going, okay, that's what my deadlift feels like, that's what my squat feels like.
Great.
So I guess, just in summary, so all three of us, we're in agreement that technical breakdown in training is pretty much unacceptable. We want that to be, we want all our lifts to be pristine, we want all the lifts to be perfect. What's different is our sporting contests. So for me, I can be a bit more lenient with technical breakdown on competition day because that's what wins a competition. So provided it's a legal lift, if it looks a little bit ugly, gets up and it wins, that's okay. If I have a strength reserve in my athlete, not at the risk of injury, of course. Maybe a little bit similar for powerlifting. You can have a little bit of technical breakdown on a competition day, but no technical breakdown in training.
No, not at all. Because you want to find what those breakdowns are and then work on them. You don't want them to break down on the day and go, oh, I didn't work on that.
And then, team sports point of view, you're not exactly going to deadlift someone off the field. So never have technical breakdown, but be strong in different positions because that's equivalent to a technical breakdown. And
There's a carryover.
Equivalent to that strength reserve.
Yeah.
Strength to strength.
Yeah.
Strong as strong.
Strong's flat.